Hello and welcome in to the Sporting JAX Report. Happy New Year, our first Sporting JAX Report of 2024. Along with Mauricio Ruiz, I'm Cole Pepper. We're going to get into the things that we are looking forward to the most here in 2024. What we're going to be looking to, it's going to be a very busy year for Sporting JAX, for the USL Championship, for the USL Super League, of course, for the men's national team, the women's national team. So much to talk about. But first, I want to remind you to be a part of Sporting JAX, our membership program, now open for free. Just go to sportingjax.com and be a part of it. You get access to the Sporting JAX membership with your option of adding a $25 season ticket deposit to be the first in line and secure future season tickets. All the supporters who have previously placed a deposit for season tickets are already members of Sporting JAX official membership program. So just go to sportingjax.com to become a part and to get all the very latest from what's happening with Sporting JAX and pro soccer returning to Jacksonville. All right, Mauricio, I want to go through some different categories here as we look ahead to the entire calendar year of 2024. I want you to give me one thing that you are most looking forward to as far as international football is concerned.
Well, it's a busy year. There's a lot to look forward to. I think if we think about locally for us, there's two things locally. Copa America in the U.S., 2024 Copa America in the U.S. I think we're going to see the U.S. men's national team compete finally where we feel that they belong in the world stage with Brazil and Argentina and Colombia and so forth, outside of the Gold Cup that typically we compete with. And so I think that's going to be interesting. The fact that it's in the U.S., almost a prequel to the World Cup in 2 years. Right. I think it's going to be really neat to see the excitement and the stadiums filled. And on the women's side, I think I'm really excited to see the U.S. Super League kick off. Right, this is the start of 2024 USL Super League getting going. So for us, being the team that's going to be joining that league in 2 years, seeing what those new teams, the 8 teams that will be joining in year one in 2024. You got Tampa, kind of creating that rivalry locally here. Carolina just announced their head coach today. So I think there's a lot of excitement around the USL Super League environment and really how that translates into women's soccer in this country.
All right, we'll get more into the US Super League, USL Super League here in just a moment. I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to in this calendar year, and it will come in the next several months. That is how the Premier League title chase shakes out. It has been the wildest year I can remember in recent memory in terms of teams on top, teams looking like they're going to make a run, then falling off. There might be 7 or 8 teams that have a real shot at winning the Premier League, and here we are after Christmas. Pretty wild to see all the teams that really are contending. Nobody has really taken this season by the throat. It's going to be wide open here for the next couple of months.
Well, and you wouldn't have thought that one of those teams competing in the top 4 at midseason would be Aston Villa.
Yeah.
Right. So if we're talking about the teams that who we thought could have been there, we talk about those top 6 naturally. Aston Villa is probably a top 8, a top 10, depending on the year. And the fact that they're in the top 4 and they're contending, they look strong, and it's not by fluke. I think it's taking a spot away from the Tottenhams, and if Arsenal keeps dropping, they dropped the game last week. So I think it is. I mean, it's the reason why it's the most watched league in the world, not just because it's on TV, because the talent level and the competition level. It really could be any team in the top 8 could make a run, and the bottom is the games are exciting. The stadiums are filled. The relegation battle, it's a good battle. It's not like you're watching poor teams play against each other. They're actually good competitive games. So who's going to be fighting to stay on top and kind of get out of that 17th position? It's from top to it's top heavy from bottom to top. I mean, it's a really heavy league, and it's entertaining to watch.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it this year, every year, but especially this year with how competitive it is. All right, now in terms of the U.S. men's national team, what are you looking forward to seeing out of the U.S. MNT here in 2024?
So this is, like, as I mentioned, Copa America is this year. So this is a preparation year. So it's not a trial. It's not let's see who's going to make the roster or not. Berhalter coming back, almost in a full-time capacity. I know he came back a little towards the end of the year last year, but this is now his group again, building into 2024. He has his staff. My question mark on the U.S. national team is, what does our back line, including goalkeeper, look like? Right? For a moment, we thought Matt Turner was the next, and he still very well may be, but he's a bit on a down spot. I mean, he's playing real games in APL. He's realizing how difficult that league is and how mistakes count. So he's lost his spot. He's regained his spot. He's come back, made mistakes again. And we don't have a number 2 playing effectively. Our number 2 is actually his backup. The number 3 ad nauseam forward. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the goalkeeper spot and how that lines up the back of the line. And the rest of the back line is who's going to be playing in that middle. We believe Tim Ream is our captain. He just renewed with Fulham again. He's 36 years old. He looks good. Who's the next to him? Is it Robinson? Is it Vickers? Is it Richards playing a fantastic EPL league this year for Crystal Palace as well? I think there's a question mark in there. I think from the middle forward, we don't have Tyler Adams. So that's a big loss not to have Tyler Adams going into the year. Let's see if he gets back, but he's not playing for Bournemouth right now. But the front four, right? The front with Ray Pulisic and Weah and Balogun kind of coming into this year. And we have some options up there, but I think that looks pretty set. The back line, to me, question marks all over.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. What I'm looking for is how different an approach Greg Berhalter takes this time around, if at all. It would have been completely okay if U.S. Soccer had decided to stick with Berhalter after the last World Cup without all of the other things that were going on. But we still want to see how all this silliness with Gio Reyna works out, with some of the different personalities that are in there. Will Berhalter adapt? Will the players adapt? I want to see how this team comes together as part of this. Some of that will be about performance on the field, as you say, with Copa America. But as you start looking ahead to the World Cup, the next World Cup cycle, how is this all going to work together? And will we see a unified team without all the drama? The United States does not have enough talent to have drama and to be able to overcome that. Yeah. This is not, looking at Brazil with drama. The U.S. needs to be together, needs to be unified, needs to truly be the United States team in order for them to go forward. So we'll see if they do that.
Well, it'll be interesting to see, to your point, does Berhalter change tactically without Tyler Adams in there? Because he's been such a linchpin on how we build the midfield. But without him being a true number 6, we've tried a couple different folks here in this, at the end of the year in the friendly games. But if he's in the team and if he's going to be ready for Copa America, then you may stay consistent. If he's not going to be considering, if he's not going to be on that roster playing in the U.S. here, the team has to change. That midfield has to change. And what does that look like in there? Is it De La Torre? Is it Musa, who's having a great season with AC Milan? So that's going to be interesting. How tactically flexible is Berhalter? Because in the World Cup, he was not.
Right. And there are more young players playing in the top leagues in Europe right now who can represent the United States. How do you bring those all together? Always a challenge with club and country.
Absolutely.
All right. How about the women's national team? What are you looking forward to in 2024 out of the women?
Well, we have a new head coach, right? And we have some departing players that were main staples, Julia Ertz and Rapinoe and a few others. So that transition, you have a brand new coach that's going to come in without international experience. So we have a great club coach, really well respected in the game in general, not just in the women's game, just in general her brain for the game. But now coming in on international level, it's a new atmosphere, it's a new environment, new cultural change as well, because those players, how does she deal with the Alex Morgans that are still kind of there, that can still play at a high level, but do they have the same rotation, have the same dominance as far as the culture of the team? Does she look to completely change that? So interesting to see what the next couple of cycles will look like. I think it'll be too early to decide what we're going to look like in 2027 World Cup. But the next call-ups leading to this year with a new staff, with the new players. Remember, the call-ups the last year, she wasn't in charge.
Right.
So this will be her first call-ups in charge of 2024. And so it'll be interesting to see how she starts formulating the team.
I'll be interested in how the leadership develops. That without Megan Rapinoe, without Julie Ertz, those were two leaders that the U.S. could count on. You still have some of the veteran holdovers for sure. There's no doubt about that. But you've got some young players who are kind of starting to fill in, and we start looking ahead to some of the bigger tournaments and the Olympics and so forth. How does that leadership start to develop? That's something I'll be looking for out of the U.S. women's national team here in the coming months. All right, let's transition from the national teams to the USL and the USL Championship in particular. What are you looking forward to here in 2024 out of the USL Championship?
So the USL Championship was an exciting league last year. We got to follow it quite a bit, doing the JAX USL report, now the Sporting JAX report. And we got to see great talent in the league, great young players promoting and playing. You have as early as 14, 15, 16-year-old players playing. So how do those players, now that they had a little bit of a pro experience from the academy to the pro, do they become a main staple? Do some of the younger players now, do they get an opportunity to get more minutes or maybe even go overseas? So watching closely some of those players. The one thing about the USL Championship is that the rosters change over quite a bit every 2 to 3 years or so. So even championship teams like the Czech Republic, San Antonio, Phoenix Rising that won this past year, do they keep consistent with their roster? or do they have upgrades or changeovers?
Right.
Look at Tampa Bay Rowdies had a great year. They changed a lot, but I'm always looking to the new kid on the block. So we got Rhode Island coming in this year. They put together a great roster. J.J. Williams came from Tampa Bay, one of the leading goal scorers in the league. How does Rhode Island come into the equation, and do they make a statement right away?
Always something to watch for. I'm going to be watching for something a little different because there's been some controversy that has come up over the last several weeks, and that is, of course, with the U.S. Open Cup and how that will be handled. MLS talked about pulling out. U.S. Soccer said, no, you can't do it. How will the USL Championship teams fare, and how will they approach the U.S. Open Cup this year? It's always been a very important thing for lower-level leagues and teams to be able to prove themselves. But I wonder how much of an impact MLS's threat is going to have on the way it actually plays out.
Well, if there wasn't enough incentive already for the minor league teams to play against MLS whenever they do get to play against them, there hasn't been a final statement from U.S. Soccer and MLS and kind of how they're going to move forward, but it always seems that the appeal to remove their first team and to put MLS Next Pro was denied by U.S. Soccer. So the MLS teams will have to play their first team, whether they play their reserves or not, kind of how it happens in Europe. You know, the first couple of rounds, you play your younger reserve players, and that's normal, that's okay. But if there wasn't enough incentive for USL Championship League One, USL 2 amateur teams to play against the top MLS teams, I think they just add a little more fuel to the fire.
I think so, too. It's going to be fun, something to watch. It's a great tournament. It's a great competition, and I look forward to it each and every year. All right, now for the USL Super League. You alluded to it a little bit earlier. What specifically are you looking forward to in terms of this first year? League launches for the first time this fall.
Well, we obviously know that women's soccer in this country, there's opportunity for growth. So we've had 12 teams. I think the Bay FC from NWSL are joining this year, but it's still only a few, right? The country is so big. We have 3 full divisions, 4 potentially 4 divisions on the men's side. We have 1 league with 12 teams. So the country has so many opportunities, and we have more young college women players playing and ready to move on to the next level than we have men. And most of those women are actually domestic U.S.-based players, where in the men there's a lot of international population that are playing in the college system here. So I'm just excited to see these new names, right? New markets coming into U.S. women's soccer, because right now it's really into their own little pockets. So now we're adding in 2024 another 8 teams into the landscape of women's professional soccer in the U.S. By 25, there'll be another 4 teams, or 26, a few more. So just the excitement of women's soccer kind of launching, and the role the U.S. Super League has in that, it really uniting and giving more opportunity. It's really not about the competition, in my opinion, between USL Super League and NWSL. It's about opportunity for young ladies to play the game they love, for coaches to express themselves creatively, for executives to work in the women's game, to create more opportunities. So the fact that we're going to almost nearly double in a year time, nearly double the opportunity for women's soccer in this professional soccer in this country is something to be celebrated.
Yep.
and to look forward to.
I'm excited about that. There's no doubt. However, I do want to point out, you said it wasn't just about what's on the field. I am excited about this aspect on the pitch itself. Because USL Super League is a fall to spring league and NWSL is a spring to fall league, seeing what kind of talent will be attracted to USL Super League, because they won't have to choose between club and country. USL Super League is going to run on the FIFA calendar, so when teams take the break mid-season for the international break, same thing with USL Super League. I think you're going to see some outstanding international players coming to play, wanting to play in the United States, not wanting to choose between their club and country, and still being able to do that. To this point, they've had to make the decision because the NWSL plays on that spring to fall schedule. That's going to be exciting to me. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I just get the sense that there are going to be an awful lot of World Cup quality players who are going to say, I want to play in the United States, and I want to play in a league that matches up with the FIFA calendar.
Well, and you're going to see that during the summer period, right? Because the FIFA the world schedule will finish in May, June, and the contract will expire at that point. The NWSL will still be going on. They do take a bit of a mid-year break, but during the summer period, where all the international players are available to sign, they won't be able necessarily to sign just now with the NWSL in mid-season. They'll be able to sign with USL Super League teams starting. So actually having a proper preseason period, not transferring from one season to the other season. And I think the Super League teams are going to leverage on that, right? They're going to build their roster base waiting. They won't sign too many young players, early players, I mean, because they're going to see what the falling out of that is and how it shakes up. But once the dust settles, I think the Super League, like you said, will attract some really top level players. and young players being given opportunity that maybe that they didn't have before.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So much is in the future here just to see how it develops with USL Championship and with USL Super League. And of course with Sporting JAX, which brings us to the final, what we're looking forward to here. This segment, Mauricio, you have a lot to look forward to here in the coming year.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy year for us. Obviously, we're still 18 to 24 months away from launching our first team on the men's and women's side, but that doesn't mean that we can't be really active in the community and we can be active in building what we're going to look like. So 24 is going to be a year for us to do that, for us to understand best practices around the USL, watch closely what the Super League teams are doing in their launch year, make sure that we're learning and we're learning from their mistakes as well, because all of us will make them, but also to start developing what does USL and Sporting JAX will look like in the city of Jacksonville. I think that's going to be important. How do we get out into our local market? How do we see our local community? Identifying local talented players, recognizing local talented coaches that want to work at the pathway to pro. We'll effectively be the only full pathway to pro soccer here in Jacksonville, all the way from USL Academy to the first team, having a USL 2 team, all part of the same fabric, part of the same pyramid. So we want to make sure that we educate our city, that we get out into the community. We talk to as many people that are willing to talk to us, that want to talk to us. We want to talk to everybody. This is a good thing for the city, for the community. Competition is welcome, competition is great. I think we all thrive off of that. So we want to make sure that our kids, boys and girls, have a clear understanding of the opportunity that's going to be presented to them in a couple of years. And I think in the second semester, you start seeing us rolling out some actual athletic programming, outside of just media programming and some community programming, which is great, and that will continue to amplify even more. But I think we want to get boots on the ground a little bit, and I think we want to see the ball rolling a little bit. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the second semester will look like, first to getting our local youth community together and start kicking the ball under the umbrella of Sporting JAX, but really under the umbrella of the city of Jacksonville and soccer in the city of Jacksonville.
That's all great stuff. And one of the things that I love about what we have seen developing here is how the engagement with the community has been so positive and how the feedback has been so great. There are some things that are going to happen I think are going to take that to the next level, what I'm looking forward to. The stadium site, when that's announced, I think that's going to make a major impact. I think a lot of people are going to be just over the moon about it. Stadium renderings, when those are out, we've had a chance to see some versions of it, and wow, get ready for that. The kit reveal, coaches, other front office additions. There is so much that's going to happen here in 2024. Yes, it'll be 2025 before a ball is kicked in competition by the USL Super League team, 2026 for the USL Championship men's first team. But there is so much that's going to happen between now and this time next year. I can't wait for it. And I'm so glad that we're here in 2024. This is going to be a huge year. So thank you so much for joining us here on the Sporting JAX Report for the first time in 2024. Remember, all merchandise is now available at We Got Soccer. You can also go on sportingjax.com and see more. And even stop by the headquarters here. We can get you taken care of with some of the gear as well for Sporting JAX. For Mauricio Ruiz, I'm Cole Pepper. Thanks so much for joining us on our first of the year Sporting JAX Report.